Nina Sayers is dancing in the prologue to Swan Lake. The magician appears and places the curse on the princess. Nina then wakes up in her apartment, the dance sequence having been a dream. She begins her daily ballet stretching and tells her mother about her dream, but her mother unintentionally ignores her. Nina goes to the ballet studio only to learn that Beth, the lead principal dancer, is being put out to pasture because she is over 40. As a result, Thomas is looking for a new face to be the lead. Thomas announces to the company that the season's first performance will be a reworking of Swan Lake. He casually talks to the dancers and taps several girls on the shoulder. He then tells those he didn't tap are to meet with him in the principal's studio. Nina sees Beth having an emotional meltdown in her private dressing room, throwing things. After Beth leaves, Nina sits down in Beth's chair and stares at herself in a mirror surrounded by globe lights. She begins to go through Beth's things and stashes several items in her pocket. Later, in the principal's studio, auditions are being held to find Beth's replacement as the Swan Princess. Nina dances with the White Swan impeccably, and then Thomas tells Nina to dance as the Black Swan. As Nina begins the dance, her audition is interrupted by the late arrival of the new dancer, Lily. Despite her flawless performance as the White Swan, Thomas is not impressed by Nina's performance. He tells her that Swan Lake is a ballet in which a princess is turned into the White Swan and can only be turned back if a man swears eternal fidelity to her. In the ballet, she is betrayed by the Black Swan, the evil magician's daughter, whom the magician has transformed to look exactly like the princess to trick the prince who has fallen in love with her. In the end, the princess commits suicide because the prince's infidelity has doomed her to remain a swan forever. Nina goes home to her mother, bursts into tears and practices her dance moves until she cracks her big toenail. Nina visits Thomas in his office and tells him she finished the Black Swan dance at home and wants the role. He tells her that he's decided to give it to another dancer. He grabs her face and tries to kiss her, but Nina bites him on the lip and runs out of his office, which both shocks and impresses Thomas. The girls begin running down the hall to find out who has been chosen as the new Swan Queen. The girl runs to see the posting but walks back to congratulate Nina. Thomas chooses her as the new queen because he is impressed because of her anger and lack of romance. She runs to the bathroom where she calls her mother from one of the stalls and tells her that she won the part. When she leaves the stall, she sees the word whore written on the mirror in red lipstick and frantically struggles to wipe it off. Her mother was also a dancer, but due to pregnancy, she had to give up her hobby. Her mother ordered a cake to celebrate, but Nina refuses to eat. Becoming angry, her mother begins to throw the cake out. Over the next several days, the stress of the role and her inability to perform get to Nina. She begins seeing a darker version of herself in random passers-by. Thomas holds a gala to officially announce Beth's retirement and Nina's rise as the Swan Queen. Nina breaks her nail in the bathroom but doesn't feel good. Lily comes there and takes off her panty and starts talking to Nina, but Nina comes out. After the party, Thomas asks Nina to stop at his place, but he called back inside. Beth confronts Nina and asks her if she had to sleep with Thomas to get the role. Nina says not everyone has to, and Beth continues to rant until Thomas appears and diffuses the situation. Thomas takes Nina back to his place where he tries to seduce her, but she smiles uncomfortably. Thomas asks her to touch herself and find her sexuality so that she may better inhabit the role. Nina's mother is helping her dress for bed. She sees scratches on Nina's back, but Nina says they're nothing. Nina tries to brush her off, but her mother grabs her hand to cut her fingernails with scissors. She accidentally cuts Nina's finger and apologizes profusely but continues to trim Nina's nails. The next morning, Nina begins touching herself as Thomas asked. When she becomes aroused, she goes faster and turns over. The next day, the company is practicing and a girl runs in, crying hysterically. She says Beth is in the hospital after an accident when she got hit by a passing car. Later, Nina is sitting at the edge of a fountain with Thomas and he tells her he believes that Beth threw herself into oncoming traffic. She visits Beth in the hospital and finds infected gash on her calf. She quickly turns to leave and bumps into Beth's nurse, who asks what she is doing there. She goes to practice and still cannot get the passion of the Black Swan into her performance. Thomas sends the other dancers home and steps in to dance as Nina's partner. As they dance together, he slowly moves his hands under her thighs and begins touching her. After a deep kiss, Nina calls after, pleading, but he does not turn back. Nina, feeling defeated in her attempt to be perfect, sits alone and cries in the studio. Lily arrives, chats casually, implying that Thomas has a tendency of sleeping with the troupe, and Nina tries to defend him. The next day, Thomas angrily asks Nina if she needs time off after a comment from Lily that he should take it easy on her. Nina tracks Lily down in the troupe dressing room where she tells her she doesn't need the help, and Lily walks away irritated. Nina and Lily go out to a local bar for drinks and some food, but Nina is so uptight that Lily offers her a pill to relax, saying it would only last a few hours. Nina is reassured by Lily that the pills will only last a few hours and downs her glass. The two have a crazy, drugged night of clubbing with two guys. When they get back to the apartment, her mother angrily slaps on her face to see her drunk. Nina yells at her and go to the room with Lily. Lily and Nina undress each other and the two continue to have sex, with Lily performing cunnilingus on Nina, who eventually climaxes. Nina wakes up the next morning to find Lily gone and realizes she is late for rehearsal. As her mother sits quietly in the living room, Nina yells at her and asks why she didn't wake her up. Nina arrives at the studio. She finds Lily in her costume, practicing her routine with the rest of the troupe. When Lily walks up to Nina, she says she was only filling in because Thomas had asked her to. Nina then questions Lily about why she left her house the night before, and Lily claims she went home to her place with Tom. Nina gets embarrassed and leaves, wondering if her lovemaking with Lily had really happened or not. A little later, Nina is being fitted for her swan costume. Lily walks in and says Thomas made Lily Nina's alternate. Enraged and afraid, Nina finds Thomas and begs him not to make Lily her alternate. Thomas soothes her before telling her she is being paranoid. He tells her that the only person trying to sabotage Nina is Nina. That night, Nina is practicing when the piano player suddenly stops playing and leaves. She is now alone in the studio and begins dancing again, but the lights shut off. She hears laughter and follows the noise to find Thomas having sex with Lily, which morphs into Nina, on a work table behind a curtain. In a fit of hysteria, Nina goes to the hospital to find Beth sitting motionless in a wheelchair. Nina quietly places a note in the items she stole on the table. Seeing her, Beth gets angry and starts scratching her face, seeing which Nina runs away. Nina returns home, dashing hysterically into the kitchen to wash her hands, which are covered in Beth's blood. When she turns the kitchen light off and on, Beth's standing there with her face covered in blood. She runs to the bathroom and vomits into the toilet. She runs in and starts tearing everything down, and imagines Beth coming towards her with a bloody face. As Nina stands there, her skin begins to shift and take on a bird-like texture, her eyes start to turn red, and her knee joints violently invert to the same shape as a bird. The hallucination disorients Nina and she falls and hits her head on a bedpost, which knocks her out. Nina wakes up the next day as in a normal day, but with socks rubber banded on her hands and a headache. She looks to her mother. Nina suddenly realizes it must be late and says she needs to get to the ballet, but her mother asks her to rest. Nina grabs her mother's broken hand and pulls her out of the chair, and walks out of the room. Nina arrives at the ballet and finds Lily in costume talking to Thomas in the hall, prepared to take the stage as the lead. Nina confidently tells Thomas that she is ready to perform and asks him what Lily is doing in her room. Thomas looks slightly amused and impressed at her audacity and tells her to get ready. Nina goes on and is just as timid and rigid in her performance as she was during rehearsals. She sees Lily flirting and loses concentration and falls. She recovers herself, but during an interval, Thomas is enraged and asks what the hell that was all about. She enters her dressing room. Lily is sitting at her dressing table putting on makeup. Lily taunts Nina, saying perhaps she should dance the Black Swan's dance as Nina is not fit to dance it. Nina pushes Lily into the same full-length mirror Beth destroyed and it shatters. As the fight escalates further, Nina grabs a piece of the mirror and stabs Lily in the stomach. Unsure of what to do, Nina hides the bleeding body in her bathroom and then puts on the Black Swan's makeup. She begins to physically transform into a large black swan on stage, growing feathers and wings. She dances the part better than ever and the crowd gives her a standing ovation as the piece ends. Nina runs off stage toward Thomas and, in front of everyone, kisses him passionately after finally seducing him with her movements. Nina goes into her dressing room and realizes the blood is starting to pour out and puts towel on it. Lily is standing there and she apologizes for how things turned out between them. Nina turns around and removes the towel to find there is no blood. She finds that the piece of mirror in her stomach as she injuried herself. In the final scene of the last act, the white swan goes to the top of a large structure to commit suicide. Nina does this with grace, looks down at the suitors below, and then turns and falls in slow motion onto the mattress below as her mother sits in the audience, smiling and crying. Thomas is overjoyed and newly infatuated with Nina. To see the blood stain, Thomas frantically asks her, "What did you do?" Nina calmly and quietly utters, "I was perfect." Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing videos.